We are KB and Jasmine, and welcome to Beyond the Silver Screen.
All right. Ready to dive into The Godfather.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people know the movie, but the story behind it is just as fascinating.
Yeah, seriously. Mobsters, Hollywood,
Power struggle.
a young director kind of clashing with the studio head. It's all there.
You know, it's funny. The Godfather mirrors those same themes, even in its creation.
Really?
Like, take Mario Puzo, the author.
Okay.
He never actually even encountered a real mobster before he wrote The Godfather.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
That seems wild. The book feels so authentic. You think he'd have spent years, like, embedded with the mafia to get it right.
It is surprising, right? I mean, a lot of it was from his childhood, you know, growing up in Hell's Kitchen.
Oh, right.
The poverty, organized crime, that sense of a separate code of justice.
All right.
Alongside the official one.
Yeah.
But direct interaction with mobsters.
Yeah.
Not until after The Godfather became a huge thing.
So how did he capture that world so well without the, like, firsthand experience?
Well, there's a story about his brother having a legal battle over some furniture.
Really?
Yeah, his brother and his fiancée had saved up to buy furniture.
Oh, wow.
And the wholesaler went bankrupt after receiving the money.
Oh, wow.
And so they took it to court.
Okay.
And then they eventually won.
Yeah.
But it was this long, drawn-out process, and it kind of solidified for Puzo that the legal system just wasn't built to deliver justice, you know, especially for working-class people.
It makes sense. That, like, personal experience trying to find justice outside the system, it's like that scene with the Undertaker Bonacera going to Don Corleone when the legal system fails his daughter.
Exactly. That desire for, like, a 4-second right wrongs right.
Yeah.
When the law just doesn't, it's a huge theme in the film.
It is.
And we have to remember, before The Godfather, Puzo was writing pulpy war stories for men's magazines.
Huh.
So imagine tight deadlines,
Yeah.
over-the-top action, and maybe not always sticking to the facts.
Huh. So you're saying maybe those pulp writing days influenced The Godfather?
It's a connection to think about, right?
It is.
The pacing, the larger-than-life characters, that almost like operatic feel.
Yeah.
Maybe it's some of that pulp sensibility just in a more refined way carried over. And then, kind of ironic,
Yeah.
after he writes about the mob, he gets this research trip to Vegas with a casino executive,
Good.
loses a bunch of money gambling, and finally gets a taste of the real mob.
Oh, wow. That's so funny. Life imitating art.
It really is.
I heard the line, I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse, might come from a casino manager and a difficult actor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
But funny.
Those little details, those like kernels of truth
Yeah.
throughout the story just makes it like even more compelling. But taking that book to the screen
Oh, yeah.
was saga in itself.
Absolutely. Paramount, the studio, they were so hesitant at first. They had just had this big flop with another gangster film, and they weren't eager to do another.
It's crazy to think that they almost didn't make The Godfather
Test.
change their minds.
Competition.
Oop.
Burt Lancaster wanted the film rights.
Really?
Huge star at the time.
Wow.
So Paramount, being Paramount,
Yeah,
they couldn't let a rival studio take it.
that makes sense.
Okay.
So they gave it the green light. Who'd they get to direct this thing?
So they brought in Al Ruddy, this up-and-coming producer.
Right.
All this energy, charm, reputation for getting things done, even on a tight budget. And so picture this.
Okay.
Ruddy, this Hollywood hustler, meets Puzo, the more reclusive writer, for the first time.
Okay.
Puzo's holding a copy of The Godfather.
Yeah.
Ruddy instantly nicknames him the Little King.
That's a great visual. This unlikely duo ready to, like, take on Hollywood. But then casting, right.
Oh, yeah.
That was a whole other battle.
Huge. Coppola wanted Marlon Brando for Don Corleone.
Okay.
The studio.
Yeah.
They were not having it. Brando had a reputation for being difficult.
Yeah.
And his recent films hadn't done so well at the box office.
Right. So how'd Coppola get his way?
He went rogue.
What do you mean?
He set up a secret screen test at Brando's house.
Wow.
Using props and improvisation.
Oh, wow.
It was a bold move.
It was.
But the studio execs, they saw the test, and they were blown away.
It's a good reminder that sometimes you got to fight for your vision,
You do.
even when it means going against the grain.
I bet it got even more complicated when the Italian-American Civil Rights League got involved.
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
The League, they were led by a real-life mob boss, Joe Colombo.
What?
They protested the film,
Oh, wow.
arguing it reinforced negative Italian-American stereotypes.
So a mob boss is trying to control how organized crime is portrayed.
It's wild, right?
That's pretty crazy. How'd they deal with that?
Ruddy, the master negotiator, managed to strike a deal with Columbo.
Really?
Yeah, details are a bit murky.
But involved script changes and assurances that the film wouldn't use the word mafia. Meanwhile, Coppola is putting together his artistic team, meticulously planning the film's look. He's got Dean Tavoularis for production design,
Oh, wow.
Gordon Willis for cinematography,
Okay,
and Anna Hill Johnstone for costumes.
the dream team. What was his vision for the film?
Something different. He didn't want those gangster movie cliches.
Okay.
He wanted something visually stunning, but also muted, almost like a Renaissance painting.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, he wanted to capture that texture of 1940s New York,
Yeah.
using lighting and camera work to create a sense of, like, gritty realism.
Makes sense. With a cast set, the mob sort of appeased this unique visual style. I think filming was smooth sailing, right?
Not quite. The on-set antics and encounters with some real-life mobsters are a story for themselves.
Okay, I'm hooked. What happened next?
Okay.
So we left off with Coppola and the team facing like all these obstacles bringing the Godfather to life.
Yeah.
What went down on set?
So many stories. It's almost impossible to separate reality from legend now.
I bet.
But we can start with, like, the infamous horsehead scene.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine being John Marley?
The actor?
Playing the producer, Waltz, having to spend, like, hours in bed with a real horse's head.
Oh, that's kind of terrifying. Such a powerful scene in the movie. So visceral.
It is. It really pushed the boundaries of filmmaking at the time.
Yeah.
And then Marlon Brando, Dowie the prankster,
What'd he do?
he decided to pull one over on Lenny Montana.
Who played Luca Brasi?
Yeah. Brando wrote "fuck you" on a piece of surgical tape
Oh, no.
and stuck it to Montana's tongue during a scene.
Oh, my gosh. That's hilarious.
That's a new dimension to method acting.
It is.
But beyond the pranks, you know, you had actual mobsters visiting the set.
What?
It really blurred the lines between the fiction and reality of the film.
Wow.
Russell Bufalino, he was a powerful mob boss, rumored to be involved with some serious crimes. He sent envoys to meet Brando.
That's incredible. It's like the world Puzo created in the book was so real that it drew in these figures from the actual underworld.
Yeah, it makes you think if those real-life encounters, like, influenced any of the performances or even just the atmosphere on set.
It had to, right?
Yeah.
But I imagine on top of all of that, Coppola was still battling with the studio over the budget.
Oh, absolutely. They were breathing down his neck, you know, every step of the way.
Yeah. Did they ever try to interfere with his creative vision?
Oh, totally. Like, there was one point where they wanted to set the movie in the present day.
Oh, wow. That would change things completely.
Completely. It would have been a totally different film.
The Godfather is a modern-day gangster flick. It just wouldn't work.
It wouldn't have the same weight.
Right.
Coppola really fought to keep his vision, though. He knew the period setting was crucial to capturing the essence of the story.
Yeah. That's the mark of a true artist.
It is. I read that the toll booth scene where Sonny Corleone meets his end,
Right.
incredibly complex to film,
I bet.
intricate stunts, special effects, and apparently James Cain was really worried about getting hurt.
Rightfully so.
They basically covered him with explosives for that scene.
Wow. It's amazing how they managed to create such iconic scenes back then.
Yeah.
You know, before all the CGI and technology we have now.
Right. A testament to the talent of the stunt performers and the effects team.
It is the toll booth scene. It's one of the most iconic moments in film history.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just about the technical stuff. It captured that brutality and the consequences of that gangster lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah.
Which was, you know, a big theme in the film.
Yeah.
But speaking of iconic scenes, we can't forget about the wedding.
I love that scene. It sets the whole story in motion.
Right. It's like this microcosm of the entire movie, the family, the loyalty, tradition, but also those hints of violence and tension.
It's all there, just under the surface.
Exactly. Coppola wanted to showcase a real Italian-American celebration, the food, the music, that warmth, but also show those subtle power dynamics at play.
Right. You see the whole Corleone family there, Michael's relationship with Kay developing.
Yeah. It's brilliantly done.
And that line Michael says to Kay about how his father got Johnny Fontaine out of his contract.
Oh, yeah.
He's all, Luca Brasi held a gun to his head, and my father assured him that either his brains or his signature would be on the contract. Talk about a casual bombshell at a wedding.
It's such a great moment, you know? It shows that dark underbelly of the Corleone business, the threat of violence always present.
It's almost like foreshadowing too, right?
Yeah.
For the darkness that consumes Michael.
Exactly.
It's amazing they found Lenny Montana to play Luca Brasi.
Oh, yeah. Talk about perfect casting. They needed someone who could be both terrifying and strangely loyal.
Yeah.
Montana had that presence, that aura.
He did. And that scene where he's like practicing his wedding speech,
Oh, yeah.
stumbling over the words, it's both funny and unsettling.
Totally. It humanizes him, but also reminds you that he's capable of real violence.
Yeah.
And then, of course, his end. It's one of the most shocking scenes in the film.
It's brutal.
I read they spent hours filming it, with Montana getting choked and stabbed repeatedly.
Oh, gosh. Talk about commitment to the role.
Yeah.
But the drama wasn't confined to just the set.
Oh, no, not at all.
Once filming wrapped, Robert Evans, the studio head, became obsessed with the editing process.
He was all in.
I mean, he was known for that larger-than-life personality and that relentless drive, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He was determined to make The Godfather this masterpiece. But, you know, he was also dealing with his own issues at the time.
Really?
Yeah, like chronic pain, dependence on painkillers, cocaine, a crumbling marriage with Ali McGraw.
Wow.
A lot going on.
So the pressure was intense, personally and professionally.
It was.
Did that affect the editing room?
Absolutely. There are stories of Evans pushing everyone to their limits, demanding perfection, you know, obsessing over every single detail.
It's like the film had taken hold of him, pulling him into that world.
Right. He was so focused on The Godfather that he neglected everything else in his life.
There's even that story about him showing up to a meeting with a broken wrist after falling down the stairs.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He refused to delay editing.
That's dedication. It shows how much he wanted this to succeed.
It does. But it wasn't just the visuals and the story he was focused on, right?
Yeah. He also clashed with Coppola over the music.
Wait, the music? What happened?
So Coppola had brought in Nino Rota, this Italian composer, to score the film.
Okay.
Evans hated it. He thought it was too old-fashioned, too sentimental.
He did.
He didn't think it fit a gangster movie.
Oh, no. That must have been a huge blow to Coppola.
It was. Coppola even threatened to take his name off the film if they didn't use Rota's score.
He did.
He knew that music was essential to the film's emotional depth and to capture that Italian culture.
It definitely is. Those melodies are unforgettable.
Iconic.
Did Evans change his mind?
Thankfully, yeah.
That's amazing. I can't imagine The Godfather without that music.
Me neither. It just wouldn't be the same. But even with the music settled, Evans still had to deal with the censors.
Oh, wait.
They were not happy about the violence.
I bet.
Especially the scene at the toll booth.
Yeah.
They wanted to cut it, sanitize it.
But that scene's crucial.
It is.
It shows the consequences of the life son he chooses.
Exactly. And Evans understood that.
He did.
He fought to keep the film's integrity. He argued that the violence was a vital part of the story.
He really was a champion for that film. So, after all that drama, all those battles,
Years of work.
The Godfather finally premiered in, March of 1972.
March 1972.
And it was an instant hit.
Huge. Critics loved it. Audiences flocked to see it. It became a cultural phenomenon.
It's crazy to think there was a time when The Godfather wasn't a classic.
Wild, right. But it wasn't always smooth sailing.
What do you mean?
Well, some people thought the film glamorized organized crime, that it portrayed the mafia with a certain romanticism. I see. Others argued that it just strengthened negative stereotypes about Italian Americans.
Right.
It's an interesting point, right?
It is.
Makes you think about the responsibility filmmakers have when they're dealing with these real-world issues, especially things that are sensitive to certain cultures.
That's a good point.
Mm.
How did the Italian-American community react at the time?
It was mixed, really. Some embraced it, They saw it as this celebration of their heritage,
Right.
a reflection of history.
Yeah.
Others were offended. They felt to just reinforce those harmful prejudices.
I can understand that.
And remember, this was a time when Italian Americans were still fighting for acceptance in America.
So it really sparked a lot of conversation.
It did.
Which, in a way, shows its impact, right?
Right. It wasn't just entertainment. It was a cultural event that forced people to confront these complex issues.
And we can't forget the Oscars, right?
Oh, yeah.
The Godfather was up for, 11 awards?
11 Oscars.
And it won 3.
Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay for Puzo and Coppola. But the most memorable moment, I think, involved Marlon Brando.
When he refused to accept the award.
Yes.
Right.
Brando, he was a huge advocate for social justice, and he sent Sacheen Littlefeather, this Native American activist, to decline the award on his behalf.
Wow.
She explained that Brando was protesting Hollywood's treatment of Native Americans and the injustices they faced.
It was a powerful statement.
It was.
Showed that even the biggest stars could use their platform for good.
Exactly. It was a pivotal moment in Oscars history.
It was. And, speaking of representation, we do have to address the portrayal of women in the film.
Yeah, for sure. It's something that's been talked about for a long time.
It has.
The women in The Godfather are often sidelined,
Right.
Wives and mothers, their lives revolving around the men in their family. They're rarely given the space to express their own wants and desires.
Right.
And there are, of course, those disturbing scenes of violence against women. And while it's important to understand the historical context, it's also crucial to acknowledge how those depictions could perpetuate harmful stereotypes.
And minimize the experiences of women.
Exactly. Diane Keaton, who played Kay, has even talked about feeling like an outsider on set.
Really?
Yeah. That her character was, defined by her relationship with Michael, not a fully realized individual.
That makes sense. It's good to get those different perspectives. Even groundbreaking films can have those blind spots.
They can. It's a reminder that representation matters, both in front of the camera and behind it.
It does.
And it's a conversation that continues to this day. We're still striving for more inclusive storytelling.
Yeah, we are. So looking back on everything we've discussed, Puso's life, the casting, the mob, the filming challenges,
The cultural impact.
what do you think is the legacy of The Godfather?
That's a tough one. There's no easy answer. I think The Godfather changed gangster movies.
Yeah,
It set the standard for so many films that came after.
it did.
It's a lesson in storytelling, character development, filmmaking. Yeah.
But it also sparks those debates about the violence, the romanticizing of organized crime, the representation of women.
Right.
It challenges us to think critically,
It does.
to question things, to talk about these difficult issues.
And that's what good art does.
It does.
It makes you think, it makes you feel.
It stays with you long after the credits roll.
It does. So we talked about the making of The Godfather, the casting, mob's involvement, the studio's influence. But, what about after? How was the film received? How did it change things?
Well, like we said, it was an instant box office smash. It broke records, became a cultural phenomenon. But it went beyond commercial success. Critics were blown away.
Yeah.
They called it a masterpiece, praising Coppola, the actors, the cinematography, the music,
Everything.
pretty much.
It's hard to imagine a time when The Godfather wasn't a classic. But it wasn't all, roses and sunshine, right?
No. There were definitely controversies.
Like what?
Well, some critics and viewers felt the film glamorized organized crime, that it portrayed the mafia in this, romantic light.
Interesting.
Others felt it reinforced negative stereotypes about Italian Americans.
That's a good point. It makes you think about the responsibility filmmakers have when they're dealing with those real-world issues,
Yeah.
especially when they're tied to cultural sensitivities.
Definitely.
How did Italian Americans react to the film back then?
It was a mixed bag. Some people, they loved it. They saw it as this, celebration of their heritage,
Right.
a reflection of, a historical reality.
Yeah.
Others were offended. They felt it just strengthened those harmful prejudices.
Right.
And remember, this was a time when Italian Americans were still struggling for equality and acceptance in society.
It's true.
So the film really sparked this huge debate.
It did. And that's kind of a testament to its power, right?
It wasn't just entertainment. It was this cultural touchstone that forced people to confront these really complex issues.
It was.
And of course, we can't forget about the Academy Awards. Oh yeah. The Godfather was nominated for 11 Oscars
11.
and won 3, right?
That's right. Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay.
For Coppola and Puzo.
Yes. But I think the most memorable moment was Marlon Brando.
When he refused to accept the Best Actor award.
Yes. Brando, he was this staunch advocate for social justice. He sent Sacheen Littlefeather, a Native American activist, to decline the award for him.
Wow.
She explained that Brando was protesting Hollywood's treatment of Native Americans, the injustices they faced.
That was a powerful statement.
It was, and it sent shockwaves through the industry, showed that even the biggest stars, they could use their platform to speak out against injustice, challenge the status quo.
Absolutely. And speaking of representation, we should probably talk about the film's portrayal of women.
Right. That's definitely something we need to address.
It's been discussed and debated for decades.
Yeah. The women in The Godfather, they're often relegated to these secondary roles, wives, mothers, their lives revolving around the men in their families. They don't really get to express their own ambitions, desires.
And there are those scenes of violence against women, too.
Yeah,
While it's important to remember when the film was made, it's also important to recognize how those depictions could be harmful
they could.
and how they could minimize the experiences of women.
Definitely. And Diane Keaton, who played Kay, she's talked about feeling like an outsider on set in this very male-dominated environment.
Really?
She felt like her character was defined by her relationship with Michael and not a fully realized person.
Yeah.
It's important to hear those perspectives, to remember that even films that break ground can still have blind spots.
They can.
Yeah.
And representation, it matters, both on screen and behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And that's a conversation that continues today. We're still striving for more inclusive storytelling in film.
We are. So, looking back at everything we've discussed, Puzo's life, the casting drama, the mob, the studio clashes.
The filming, the cultural impact.
What do you think is the legacy of The Godfather?
It's a big question.
It is.
I think The Godfather, it redefined what a gangster movie could be.
Yeah,
It set a new standard.
it did.
And it's a masterclass in storytelling, character, and filmmaking. But it also raises all those questions,
Mhm.
about the violence, romanticizing organized crime, representing women.
Right.
It challenges us. It makes us think critically.
And that's what makes it so fascinating, right?
It does.
It's more than just a movie. It's this cultural artifact.
Yeah.
Something that's still relevant today.
It is.
And that's what we tried to do in this deep dive.
Yeah.
We explored how it was made, the cultural context, the impact on cinema, on society.
Yeah.
We've gone through the underbelly of Hollywood, organized crime, and the power of storytelling.
It's been a journey.
So what does this mean for you, the listener? We hope this is giving you a new perspective on The Godfather.
Hopefully it sparked some curiosity, encouraged you to explore this world even more.
There's so much information out there. Books, documentaries, articles. If you want to go deeper, the material is there.
It is.
And maybe when you revisit the film, you'll see it with new eyes.
Yeah.
You'll appreciate its artistry, but also engage with its more complex elements.
Yeah.
Because that's what good art does. It makes us think, it provokes us. And until next time, keep exploring, keep creating, and keep chasing those dreams.